All right, ready to jump into something pretty powerful.
I'm ready. What are we tackling today?
Today, we're going deep into the book of Galatians. You had some questions about it, and I think it's safe to say this letter of Paul's is anything but boring.
It really is something else. It's one of those writings that shaped Christianity as we know it, and it's still incredibly relevant, even for people who aren't super religious.
So let's get right to it. Paul was writing to these churches in Galatia. What was the situation there? What had him so fired up?
Well, put yourself in Paul's shoes. You've dedicated your life to spreading this radical new message about Jesus, about freedom and grace. And then you hear that some people are trying to twist your message to add all these extra rules and requirements. That's what was happening in Galatia.
So what were they saying? What was the specific issue that got Paul so riled up?
The big controversy was about how Gentile converts, people who weren't Jewish by birth, how they fit into the Christian faith.
Gotcha, right.
Some people are saying that these Gentile converts had to follow Jewish law to be truly saved. Things like circumcision, dietary restrictions, all those detailed rules.
So it was about whether you had to become Jewish to be a Christian.
Exactly. And Paul was like, absolutely not. He was adamant that salvation comes through faith in Jesus Christ alone, not through following the law.
And this wasn't just a friendly disagreement for Paul, was it?
No way! He saw this teaching as a straight-up distortion of the gospel, a different gospel altogether. He even called it a perversion of the truth.
Wow. Strong words. It sounds like this went way beyond just like different interpretations or something.
It did, because it went to the core of what it meant to be a Christian. Was it about meticulously following rules and rituals? Or was it about faith and grace?
Right, and that idea of justification by faith, that's huge in Christianity, isn't it?
It is. It's absolutely
Great.
fundamental.
But I think for a lot of people, it can be a little confusing to understand. So what does that actually mean, like in simple terms?
Sure. Think of it this way. Justification by faith is like receiving a gift. You don't earn it, you don't deserve it, but it's freely given to you.
Okay, I like that.
So in this case, the gift is salvation, a right relationship with God, and it's received through faith in Jesus Christ, not through our own efforts or good works.
That must have blown people's minds back then. I mean, it was a totally different way of thinking about religion, right?
It absolutely was. It turned the whole system on its head. No longer were elaborate rituals or strict adherence to the law the main thing. It was about a personal relationship with God made possible through faith.
So are we still struggling with that today, this idea of trying to earn our worth instead of accepting grace?
Oh, absolutely. Think about it. How often do we get caught up in trying to prove ourselves through our achievements, our possessions, our good deeds?
All the time, right?
Yeah. We can easily fall into the trap of thinking that we need to earn God's love or approval. But Galatians reminds us that we're already accepted and loved, not because of what we do, but because of who Christ is and what he's done for us.
That's a good reminder.
It is. It's incredibly freeing.
And speaking of freedom, that's another big theme in Galatians, right?
Absolutely. It's all over the place in this letter.
But how did Paul view freedom, especially given this idea of grace? Was he saying, okay, now you can do whatever you want?
That's a really good question because it's easy to misinterpret what Paul's getting at. He wasn't saying we could just live however we wanted. It wasn't a license for recklessness or anything.
Right.
For Paul, freedom in Christ meant liberation from the burden of the law, all those rules and regulations, and freedom from the power of sin.
So it's more about an internal freedom.
Exactly. It's about being set free from things that bind us, fear, guilt, the pressure to perform, all of that. And it's about being empowered to live a life that reflects the character of Christ, a life characterized by love and service.
So it's like a transformation of the heart.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. And that actually leads us to another key theme, the fruit of the Spirit.
Yes. This is such a beautiful part of Galatians.
So what exactly is the fruit of the Spirit?
Paul lists these qualities: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control.
Wow, that's quite a list. And these qualities, they're not just a list of rules to follow, right?
Right. They're not something we have to force or manufacture.
Yeah.
Paul is describing the natural outflow of a life that's connected to Christ.
It's like they just flow naturally when we're living in relationship with them.
Exactly. And the interesting thing is that Paul contrasts these qualities with what he calls the works of the flesh. Things like selfish ambition, envy, fits of rage.
It's like he's describing this constant tension between our better and worse selves.
And, I think that tension is still so relevant today. We all struggle with it, right? We see it in ourselves, in our relationships, even in society as a whole.
Absolutely. So, taking a step back, why does all this matter today? Why is Galatians still relevant for us centuries later?
Because it addresses fundamental truths about us as humans. It reminds us that true freedom isn't about striving and earning, but about resting in the grace that's already been given. And it challenges us to examine our own motivations. Are we driven by the need to perform, or are we living from a place of acceptance and love?
Yeah, it's deep stuff. So what do you think? What's the most powerful takeaway from Galatians for you?
For me, it all comes back to the radical revolutionary idea of grace. We are loved and accepted not because of anything we've done, but because of who God is.
That's pretty amazing.
It really is, and it's a message that can truly set us free to live a life of purpose and joy, a life that bears the fruit of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, all those good things.
Wow, a lot to think about.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for taking this deep dive into Galatians with us. It's been enlightening. Until next time.
It's been fun.
Bye.
See ya.